What am I doing?
We're gonna...
I'm just gonna listen to you, and I'm just gonna go like this and smile.
Hi, everyone. I'm sitting here with the governor. Okay, let's just start over. Hi, everyone. Happy holidays. We hope you are...
Nope, do it again. Number 3.
The Newsomes are having a moment. Though America's next presidential election is still more than 2 years away, the betting pools show California Governor Gavin Newsom ahead of the Democratic pack. In a political era of big, singular personalities, Newsom fits the mold.
Good to see you.
Telegenic, tactical, and polarizing, capable of inspiring both passion and contempt.
Gavin Newsom is incompetent.
But there's nothing singular about this operation. More often than not, his teammate, Jennifer Siebel Newsom, is in the room where it happens.
How do you guys decide when to team up?
She decides.
I'm traveling with California's first couple to see what they make of tech's turn to the right.
I just feel like a lot of people are losing their way.
Taking on the most powerful man in the world.
You've dressed him like Marie Antoinette, told him to take dementia meds. You're wincing a little.
I know, it's unbecoming.
Well,
I should wash my mouth out with soap.
And getting a glimpse of home life with the Newsomes.
Are you competitive with each other?
Totally. I beat him in free throws the other day. Thank you very much.
I was asking who puts the hammer down.
I was a little loose, so what do you think I said?
That Jen basically calls the shots. I'm all about partnership.
It was definitely the right answer then.
How have you handled the pressure?
I come here. I come here with my girlfriends. I come here with my colleagues. I come here with just the dogs.
For the Newsomes, partnership begins at home. Across the bridge from San Francisco in Marin County, known for its pricey real estate and spectacular natural beauty. It's where Jennifer grew up and where she and the governor have put down their own roots, raising 4 children.
I heard you're a state park nerd. I've been watching your Instagram. I've seen your walks.
I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, come rain or shine, I'm always like, all right, let's go.
People love to hate on California.
Look, it's a state of dreamers and doers and entrepreneurs and Nobel laureates, the center of manufacturing. We produce 1/3 of the nation's vegetables. You know, we've got Silicon Valley and Hollywood here. And so I like to think there's probably some jealousy. Who wouldn't want to live here? It's pretty special.
Of course, there are those who disagree. Those who look past the good weather and see California as an intractable tangle of economic and social problems, and place much of the blame with Governor Newsom.
Hello.
How are you?
Good to see you again.
The interview? Are we being interviewed?
You know what?
Is this part of
It's
it?
the always on era. There's always a hot mic around.
Gavin Newsom has been a fixture of California politics for more than 20 years. As San Francisco's mayor, lieutenant governor, and now governor. But increasingly, he's become the face of political opposition to President Trump. At home,
Donald Trump's government isn't protecting our communities. They're traumatizing our communities.
and abroad.
He's a T-Rex. You mate with him or he devours you.
And the president has taken notice.
Look at the job he's doing in California. He's destroying one of our great states.
In 2025, the state of California filed more than 50 federal lawsuits against the Trump administration and won a major victory with the passage of Proposition 50, a redistricting measure meant to counter similar Republican efforts urged by Trump ahead of the 2026 midterms.
You have a history of taking up positions that carry a lot of political risk. Same-sex marriage, environmental regulation, Prop 50, trolling Trump. You're out there experimenting.
Yeah.
What is driving you right now? Is it ambition or is it outrage?
Well, with the 2 driving forces of life, inspiration and desperation. Been inspired by a lot of our politicians and by our politics in the past. I'm now on the other side of maybe feeling a little more desperate about the moment we're living in. The blatant corruption that is occurring on an hourly, not just daily basis. It sickens me in my core. As an American, as a father, as a husband, as a guy who grew up in the Bay Area, and to watch some of my old friends participate in that, I need to be more accountable to this moment.
Why should people trust you?
Trust me. I am who I am, and I've been an open book for decades, and people that know me best have elected me to many offices. There was an effort to recall me in the last 3 elections. We won by margins of 20+%. So, I mean, that issue, I think, has been substantively addressed for those that chronicle me, literally and figuratively, that know me best in this state and certainly in the Bay Area.
The person who knows Newsom best of all is his wife, Jennifer Siebel Newsom, who was a vocal ally in the Prop 50 fight.
Voting yes on Prop 50 is saying to Trump and his cronies that you cannot cheat in California, you cannot steal our power, and you cannot silence our people.
Thank you for coming. Come in.
Thank you for having us at your house. I have 4 kids too.
Yeah. Oof.
So
It's fun, huh?
it's fun, and I can imagine the 4-kid energy.
A lot of energy.
A lot of energy. All right. You wanted to be called first partner instead of first lady.
Mm-hmm.
How are you trying to change the stereotype of what it means to be a politician's wife?
For me, I really wanted to put out to Californians that I wanted to partner with California moms and families and women and children, and that I would be their partner. And that I also was a partner to the governor. I'm the first person that sees him in the morning, the last person before bed at night. We share, our thoughts, our passions, our concerns for California and for the world.
Some partners of government leaders enjoy the opportunity and the attention that comes with this position. Do you enjoy it? Or has it taken some getting used to?
I just am a worker bee. I think my husband and I are just worker bees. I actually don't love the pomp and circumstance at all. I want to roll my sleeves up and get to work.
How did you feel about her wanting to be first partner instead of first lady?
I mean, I had mixed feelings.
I thought you liked it.
I liked it because I thought it was the right thing, but I knew that people would, have opinions about it. Mm-hmm. Because it's, these traditional roles, and people have strong opinions about all that.
Jennifer Siebel Newsom grew up in Ross, California, one of 5 kids in a wealthy conservative family.
You used to be a registered Republican.
I was right, yep.
Your parents contributed to Ron DeSantis' campaign for Florida governor.
If I may correct the record, my mom and dad were invited to a fundraiser by a mutual friend in Florida, which is why they gave money to Ron DeSantis. It was, and they did not like the way it was manipulated by the DeSantis camp. I was raised in a conservative household, kind of Reagan-esque household. I didn't know any different than to kind of revere Reagan. I grew up in that generation. Then I think I tried to be the version of decline to state, but went independent instead and made that mistake just because I wasn't ready to just jump in just because he was a Democrat. But I'm 100% a progressive Democrat, and in terms of my values.
How does this dynamic work in your own family? Like, what's the conversation like at the Thanksgiving table? Do you talk about politics?
My mom and dad really respect Gavin. Gavin is an entrepreneur. He's a businessman. He is very forward-thinking, very fair, very balanced. I can be a little feistier in terms of, I feel a real responsibility to fight for and on behalf of women and girls.
Siebel Newsom's childhood was colored by a tragedy just before her 7th birthday, when she was involved in a golf cart accident that killed her sister Stacy, who was 8 years old. In interviews, she's described feeling responsible.
What was it like growing up, Jennifer Siebel?
I mean, I really woke up after my sister died, but I also lived with a lot of guilt and pain. And the beauty of surviving that was that there were so many beautiful moms and older women and older sisters who came in to support me. I got through it to come out on the other side and realize that I survived and had this opportunity to be of service and be about more than myself and try to make a difference in the world.
At school, Siebel was driven to excel. Recruited to play on Stanford's Division I soccer team, she went on to work with women in indigenous communities in Africa and Latin America, and then returned to Stanford for her MBA. And then she headed to Hollywood.
Betsy Hofstadt, look at you.
You were typecast as a trophy wife.
Yes.
And is it true that your agent wanted you to take Stanford off your resume so you wouldn't seem smart?
Yes, and to lie about my age, which I didn't do either, because that's not, those aren't my values. And I was proud of my Stanford MBA, and I was proud of my Stanford undergraduate degree, and I didn't want to pretend to be someone that I wasn't.
How is what you've learned over the course of your career informing what you think the government needs?
In the entertainment industry, I obviously saw a dearth of women in positions of power and influence. I also saw women's voices be silenced because women weren't the majority of writers, directors, and producers. And similar to the political world, women may be rising in terms of our numbers and representation, but women don't have the same voice and power in politics.
She poured her efforts into advocating for change, becoming a documentary filmmaker, and exploring social issues around gender and economic inequality. And she went on to advocate for herself, making headlines in a California courtroom.
You testified that Harvey Weinstein sexually assaulted you, and you were part of the Me Too movement. And there was that moment for women where it felt like progress was being made. Mm-hmm. And then there's the moment that we're in now, where it feels like so many things women fought for are slipping away.
Yeah.
How do you make sense of this moment?
Every time we make progress, there's another backlash. I would say technology is the new backlash. We don't have as many women in power starting, designing, running these tech companies. The other part of the problem is that these tech titans are profiting off of misinformation and disinformation that is dividing our country. It's like ka-ching, 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 with all of this misinformation and hate. It's not who we are as human beings. It is not what we are as Americans. It alarms me that we've gotten to this place and that we've allowed it.
To change the balance of power, the Newsomes have spearheaded a slate of progressive initiatives, many centered on the well-being of women and families. Here at the First Partners Gender Equity Summit, the hot topic is how to regulate big tech, a group whose leaders the governor has historically counted as allies.
Kids deserve a world that values them over the technology that currently exploits them. When decisions are mainly driven by power and profit instead of care and responsibility, we completely lose our way. And given the current alignment between tech titans and the federal administration, I believe we have lost our way.
We talk about this state, the future happens here first. We're America's coming attraction. And we have a unique responsibility as it relates to these tools of technology because, well, this is the center of that universe.
The people you're talking about at the top of these companies, some of these are incredibly powerful, incredibly wealthy, incredibly influential people. What do you make of tech's turn to the right?
It's disheartening and disturbing. It's very confusing. When you spend too much time in your bubble of wealth and perhaps in your limited perspective where you only interact with people of the same economic ilk unless they actually are employed by you, I think that's a really dangerous place.
The Newsomes have spent years warning about who gets to shape technology and who gets left out. Now, in a world of shifting loyalties and alliances, they're fighting to keep their own seat at the table.
Some of these people didn't come out for Prop 50, people who have been there for you in the past. How do you win Silicon Valley back?
I think there are actually a lot of people in Silicon Valley that love my husband and respect him because they know he's creative, he's an innovator, he's an entrepreneur, he's a futurist. They're scared, and so they're just silent. Some of these people that have power and wealth and relationships with the current administration, I think that their loyalties swing.
Trump's AI czar, David Sachs, who once supported Newsom and later backed an effort to recall him, has been pushing back against California's oversight of AI companies.
The problem that we see is that you've got 1,000 different bills going through state legislatures right now to regulate AI.
For the Newsomes, this is more than a regulatory fight. It's a test of the once close relationships he's had with Silicon Valley leaders.
I'm on the other side of a lot of this. Can't take the David Sachs of the world. Can't take the selling out.
And these are people that you
know
well personally.
Yeah.
There's been a clear shift to the right among tech leaders in Silicon Valley.
Tech donors who once supported Democrats are now whispering in the president's ear. Your wife thinks some of these folks have lost their way.
She has strong opinions. I give a little more grace. I think there's more of a situational relationship to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, some with a little more indulgent than I would like to see, because I think they're selling out and they don't need to. Others that, sadly, I get the sort of corporate side of their decision-making, sadly. So I think the vast majority will, quote unquote, come back. I don't think they've gone that far as is perceived.
How do you plan to regulate AI when it means taking on the most powerful people in your state and the president's trying to stop it?
Well, we've been doing it. I mean, California's been a leader for decades. And so I'm mindful of a competitive relationship to headquartered companies and so much of that innovation coming here and how we regulate it. At the same time, I'm mindful of our responsibility. The world we invented now, we also have a responsibility to regulate truth and trust, promise and peril. Age-gating conversations we're having social media. I mean, California's led in that. We've done it, though, in more prescriptive ways than just saying, here's the age and you can't access it. We talk about how algorithms are used and how we could protect children as it relates to those algorithms.
It wasn't long ago that Newsom and Silicon Valley stood together, a bond stretching all the way back to his years as mayor of San Francisco.
Google, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, all of them wrote a brief to the Supreme Court supporting gay marriage. You know, beyond talent, why do you think these companies got so involved?
I think I fundamentally think, I mean, just in their fiduciary responsibilities to their shareholder, it's about not just attracting talent, but retaining talent. And it's about representing the people they're serving.
Newsom grew up in San Francisco. Raised by a single mother who worked multiple jobs, he struggled with severe dyslexia in school, but was a standout baseball player, which opened the door to college. Newsom also moved in society circles thanks to his father, whose connections to the Getty family helped launch Newsom's hospitality empire, paving the way for a career in politics. As governor, he's pushed progressive legislation on gun control, abortion rights, and minimum wage, while simultaneously working to protect business interests in Silicon Valley and Hollywood. He's also navigated some controversies. In 2007, after separating from his first wife, Kimberly Guilfoyle, who later got engaged to Donald Trump Jr., Newsom had an affair with his own appointments secretary, the wife of his campaign manager. And in 2020, he was caught violating his own COVID lockdown, attending a party at the French Laundry, an exclusive Napa restaurant. With the scandals and recalls behind him, Newsom has now moved on to the biggest gamble of his political career, a scorched earth approach to Trump.
You have posted videos of the president as a pig.
It's a very big, fluffy bun.
A hamburger.
Where's the beef?
You've dressed him like Marie Antoinette, told him to take dementia meds. You're wincing a little.
I know, it's unbecoming.
Well,
I washed my mouth out with soap.
So if this is the future of American politics and both sides leave the high road behind, does this road lead somewhere better or worse?
Well, I'm not trying to win an argument while these guys are consolidating power. I'm not an idiot. And they play us for fools. We got to be accountable at this moment. And what I seriously am trying to do, and I wince at that, is that's all in reaction to. It's the mirror that I'm putting up on Trump and Trumpism. This is not normal to dress up as the Pope. This is not normal to act like a child when you are a man and the leader of the free world. And so we started to change our social media and used a little humor and put that mirror up. I created a Patriot site. You can go on the Patriot site.
I noticed the knee pads were sold out.
They're sold out, just like, again, the law firms and universities have sold out, just like the Supine Congress is sold out. These guys are not screwing around. They're ruthless. And so we have to push back. And so our comms has shifted. I'm starting to understand the nature of attention. You understand that in a business perspective, the attention economy and all the like. But in politics, this guy floods the zone. He dominates the narrative. Illusion rules. The narrative's what matters, not facts. And so we've got to fight with fire.
Was there a moment you decided to break the glass? Did you have to talk about it? Like, how did you?
I had to talk to her about it because I said, just FYI, some of your friends may be going, what the hell is this? Why is your husband's picture on Mount Rushmore? I had to explain this is literally a mirror image of what Trump put out a few months ago.
He's so kind and decent, and at some point, that doesn't work. with this situation that we found ourselves in, with this administration. So the mirror, the clapback, the humor, it's giving people hope.
When the governor isn't throwing flames on social media, he and his wife seem to be working more subtle angles, like pushing back against a proposed billionaire tax.
I do have one more quick question because of the billionaire tax, and I know you've said many times that you're against this. But if it ends up on the ballot, I mean, I talk to these people who say they're leaving.
It is not something that is going to pass. It's not something that we should do. If people want to leave on that, well, there's going to be questions about that as well. But the impacts in the state would be profound. The fact that people are leaving on that basis of something that hasn't collected a signature is they're going to regret it in a few weeks.
But if it ends up on the ballot, doesn't it scare you?
We're going to defeat it.
Doesn't it scare you? It could end up on the ballot.
We'll defeat it.
At issue for Governor Newsom is a fundamental challenge, maintaining strong bonds with both business leaders and the working class. But with nearly 3/4 of Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents in favor of taxing the wealthy, he may be forced into a position with one group that alienates the other. While the governor worries about keeping rich entrepreneurs and their businesses in California, Siebel Newsom has been sounding the alarm about a different demographic slipping away.
The governor credits you with identifying an epidemic that nobody else was talking about at the time.
Right.
Now we're seeing young men gravitating towards a certain kind of rhetoric. How would you describe what they're going through?
Well, I think culturally, there's been a loneliness epidemic for many young men. The manosphere online has really just capitalized on filling that void of loneliness and a lack of healthy role models. You know, the newest thing with young men is that they think that they have to make money and that school isn't important. And they need to disconnect their heads from their hearts and repress parts of themselves. And again, in hearing that message over and over again and denying parts of themselves and telling them that their only value is in their economic prowess and success and owning and controlling women, that is so harmful. That is so dehumanizing. And then reinforced by the rhetoric and behavior of the current President of the United States of America. It's so confusing.
You've been doing this podcast, interviewing people on the other side.
Democrats cannot survive in long-form podcasting environments.
Why?
It's too unscripted. It's too masculine, honestly. And the Democrat Party's become too
What
feminine.
is masculine about a podcast? Honestly, because I get the whole manosphere, this bro podcast
to go
stuff.
into the wilderness with no rules and duel it out and see who's better or who's stronger. No, seriously. I mean, like, what?
Democrats can't.
No, I mean, like...
We don't do it.
No,
You're right. We, for whatever reason, don't do it.
You've talked about how your son was so excited for you to meet Charlie Kirk, wanted you to meet Andrew Tate even more. And the conventional wisdom is that these figures are attractive to young men who feel left behind or left out. One wouldn't think that that's your son.
Yeah, he was dabbling in all that. He did, and this was YouTube. I mean, he didn't have a device at the time. It was the school device. It was his homework device, and all of a sudden he's just extending a little more time on it. Then all of a sudden there's an ad for something, young men, get in shape, and then all of a sudden it's Hustlers University. Dad, I need $35. I'm like, what's Hustlers University? It's crypto, get rich quick, and come on, Dad, I need my own account. Like, wow. And so it sort of monitored a consciousness for me that I need to monitor this. And that device around algorithms, I mean, how that is impacting kids. So society becomes how we behave. So we can get him, that's a deeper conversation. But that conversation is one we're all having in this country, particularly with young men and boys.
When did you find out he had this sort of admiration for Charlie Kirk or interest in Charlie Kirk? And how did that make you feel?
Yeah, so it was really exaggerated by the media, and I was a little upset about that, to be honest. But it was a curiosity. I mean, my son, he loves his grandfather, and who's a conservative, and he loves my husband, and my conservative father loves my husband. And he's just trying to get attention, curious. They're trying on masculinities at that age. They're trying things on. And the right really is co-opted that. They've really manipulated that. But I was not happy about it because it's not our values and it's not who my child is. But it's also horrible what happened. It is so sad. And I feel so sorry for his family. I feel so sorry for his community. Nobody should be shot and killed. Nobody.
The killing of U.S. citizens by federal agents in Minnesota has since caused tensions in America to boil over.
Apache helicopters descending in streets all across America, masked men, without providing identification, and we're in court on that. I was proud to sign the first anti-masking bill in this country. He has tried to stoke a civil war in this country. It is a disgrace.
You've warned about the end of the republic. Is it hyperbolic to talk about civil war, or is that a real threat?
I hope not. Look, divorce is not an option, and we're going to have to define the terms of our future. And I just don't believe, we're not there, but we've got to preserve this country. And as we move into the 250th anniversary of our founding fathers, I think we're at risk of becoming unrecognizable if we don't push back.
We only have to look at some of the policies that the current administration has championed, ripping families apart, ripping children away from their mothers and their grandmothers, ripping healthcare away from vulnerable communities. I equate it to a backlash because we have made progress. And I think there are so many good human beings that see the value in us standing in our power and having voices and using our voices to champion policies and practices that could make the world a better place.
I recently heard you say you support compulsory national service for young Americans.
I do.
As a mom, I need to know more about this. Is this for boys and girls? What kind of service?
Yeah.
What kind of service would you like to see your own kids
Well, it goes to
do?
your, I don't know anything that would be more powerful and potent than sharing experiences at scale for a generation that feels more isolated, more alone, more disconnected, more anxious. 1-2 years of service that can come in many forms and manifestations.
Like?
Across the spectrum. Consider just contributions in your community, volunteering at a senior center, volunteering for, mentoring young people, mentoring young men in particular. We have a crisis of men and boys, and we've been trying to address that as aggressively as any other state. And so I just think we have to hit that head on. Shared experiences. We used to have them. Our parents and grandparents, they had them through struggle and conflict, war. But that national service united people. It wasn't about Democrats, Republicans, urban, rural. It was about us coming together. It was about understanding who we are, many parts, one body. And I think this notion of service is really important.
This is the final year of Newsom's term as governor, and he's pushing against headwinds that could complicate any national ambitions. A projected $18 billion budget shortfall, California's highly visible homeless population, and past progressive policies, like extending Medicaid to undocumented immigrants, which he's since paused, that he'll have to explain to the rest of the country. And then there's affordability. The average home in California costs more than 2.5 times what it does in Texas, and gas prices are more than 70% higher.
It's expensive. It's very expensive to live here.
There's a lot of downsides to living in California, especially the expenses, the taxes, the traffic.
We've had a lot of impacts. I was impacted by a wildfire and not necessarily forced into homeless, but displaced.
So your house burned down? Your house burned down?
Yeah. My husband and I live in a fifth wheel, and it's not an easy life.
What do you think of Gavin Newsom?
I feel like with the recent changes, I feel like he's fighting for our country. I work in higher education, so I see the support that we are receiving within higher ed, with the California Promise Grant. Students are receiving free education within community colleges.
Do you live here?
I do live here. I'm homeless out here.
Do you have any words for Governor Newsom?
Oh yeah, how is it all these mental health people out here are getting mistreated, misguided, families out here struggling homeless, and you're the governor and you know it and you're allowing it to happen?
Well, let's talk about affordability. I think the median price of a family home in this area is like $1.6 million. Yeah. People look at the cost of living here, which is incredibly high. What do you say to those people?
We want to fix this for Californians, right? To make it more affordable to live here. And so the fact that he's diving in and addressing this, and then hopefully the next governor will continue the work. But a lot of the policies that he's put into place, we're not going to see the results for a few years. And the next governor will get to reap the benefits of all of this, from green schoolyards to all of our investments in parks and libraries. Our education system, we're starting to see the outcomes of our investments in early literacy and closing some of the gaps that accrued because of the pandemic.
I live in California. I love California. but I know we have our issues. People look at California and see a massive deficit, a homelessness crisis, the crushing cost of living, families and businesses leaving. They say, I don't want that. What do you say to them?
There's been an obsession with focusing on what's wrong with California. I understand that. I'm not naive about cost of living and housing going back 3, 4, 5 decades. But nor am I naive about our approach to addressing it. Some of the most significant housing reforms in U.S. history, not just California history, over the last 2 years. Last year was next level in terms of our efforts in that space. I think they're going to pay huge dividends. And I feel like directionally on the issues of affordability, when you do $11 insulin, when you do wage increases for working folks, which is part of the affordability equation, $20 fast food workers, $25 for healthcare workers, when you focus on childcare expansions, of which no other state has done more in subsidies than we have, or creating a brand new grade, pre-K for all, which saves about $18,000 a year for working families. All of that is part of an affordability agenda. So our agenda is about delivering solutions to that, addressing some of these systemic issues, but also addressing some of the complete mythology and myth-making that's part of the California derangement syndrome that seems 24/7 in our politics today.
Whether these measures drive down costs for California families is a question that will be answered far into the future. For now, in the Newsom home, a high-profile life carries its own cost.
How often are you home?
Well, it's a good question. I'm heading to LA tomorrow again, but every night. I'm just commuting back and forth, which is not, I can appreciate people's frustration around commutes a little bit better.
Didn't Arnold Schwarzenegger just fly in on his jet every day?
I didn't have my own G whatever. That doesn't come with this, no planes, private planes in the family.
When the cameras are off and the phones are down, what's it like in the Newsom household with Gavin and Jen?
Well, the phones are rarely down, so let's establish a baseline of understanding, particularly when you got 4 kids taking the phone in the house, even if you took their phones, and Jen and I ourselves. But look, it's a little bit chaotic, sometimes chaotic. So there's some order to the chaos. More often than not, there's no order to it. But look, every night orders up a different challenge that is fatherhood.
What time do you wake up? What's your daily routine? I wake up a little before 7. I'm in my robe for a while. I put the kids in the car in my robe. It's like,
love that
kind of
for
embarrassing.
you.
I just don't care. Then I'll run the dogs up somewhere, and then I hit the road.
So what's next for the Newsomes? I was going to say politics aside, but I just don't think that's possible.
I've loved and love this chapter of my life, and I'm probably going to be really sad when it's over. And we've been going. We've had the pandemic, we had wildfires, we've had flooding. Every time we've wanted to go on a family trip, we haven't because there's a crisis. The governorship was so much on our family, so much good and so much pressure.
How do your children handle the pressures of living in the house with the governor? And how does that weigh on you?
Kids from political families, a lot of them struggle. And we think about that a lot. And what's our example? And are we being good parents? And are we doing the right thing? Some days they're happy about it. Hey, Dad, so-and-so came up to me and they're really nice. Other days, I can't believe you did this to me. Like actual language. How can you do this to me? When is this over? And they're like, we're in a countdown clock now. They're like, it's 13 more months. 12. No, it's 12. And they're debating. We had to take one of our kids out of school and homeschool her. And I'll never forget, never, ever, ever, ever forget, in some respect, forgive myself sitting there in our living room where we did an 8th grade graduation because she didn't experience her 8th grade graduation. She wasn't able to do that in front of her friends and classmates. That's politics, and that's stuff you don't get back. And so those are the sacrifice. Everyone has sacrifice. Look, we've had privileges beyond imagination. I'm not naive and deeply situationally aware, but there is that side of it, and that's on us. That's on me, and I gotta make up for that.
What do you say to your kids when they ask you if you're going to run for president?
I have no idea. I tell them that. I say it's circumstantial. You have to have a big enough why.
And who knows? I just don't know.
But you said you'd be lying if you weren't.
I said I was lying if it wasn't a passing thought, and that's all I said, and then people ran with these headlines. Look, Prop 50 was about 2025. We don't have 2028 if we weren't successful in 2025. Nothing matters more than a system of checks and balances, not on paper, but in practice, and this notion of co-equal branches of government. Doesn't take much of an historian to know these are the principles of our founding fathers, the best of Roman Republic, Greek democracy. And so everything is about setting the table to 2026 in the midterms, period, full stop. The guy on the white horse come save the day in 2028 is a sideshow and not a particularly productive one at this stage.
Do you see yourself in the White House? Do you let yourself imagine what that life would be like?
I am so focused on this house in California. I have no thoughts about that. That's a family decision for down the line, if, when, really, if, it's flattering. Like I read an article about him being the front runner, and of course it's flattering. And I'm like, yeah, he's really talented. And that is like really far away. And we have a state to end strong in, a family to hold and launch, and I have no idea.
That said, you both have a lot of momentum. How do you keep that up? For, let's say, 3 more years.
I can't speak to him and what we've talked about things, regardless, because that is a very small percentage chance of ending up there. And I don't know if I want it. It's been a wild 7 years. We'll see. I have no idea.
Who's funnier?
Clearly she is.
No, he is. Sometimes I'm shocked.
Are you sure
Okay,
that
ready?
works?
Yes, okay, ready?
All right.